We are delighted to announce the launch of Extraordinary Women in Tech Conference, taking place this December at the Intercontinental Hotel in San Francisco. Join this truly global peer-to-peer conference. Add your name to the list of best and brightest female minds joining together to advance the movement of women leadership in technology. Meet investors and pitch your startup ideas. Get career advice from other tech-savvy female executives. Be featured in our dedicated podcast channel. Enjoy the glamour of the Red Carpet Gala amplifying women's voices. Come celebrate the achievements of you, an extraordinary woman in tech.
I want to welcome you to a very special global panel today. Today's episode is dedicated to startups and entrepreneurs. I'm very excited. We have amazing experts, Hila from Tel Aviv. Hi, Hila.
Hi.
We have Molly from Berlin. Hi, Molly.
Hello.
And we have Alfie from Western Florida. Hi, Alfie. So welcome, ladies. I just wanted to pause and say we have 4 cities here. I'm from San Francisco, 4 time zones representing today, 3 countries. How exciting is that? I think it's really the pandemic did something to us, so we are so connected globally. And today's session, we would like for our audience to really give advice and answer your questions. We want you to feel supported in every step of the way. So we will pause and try to answer your questions. So please write questions in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we will try to address it because these panelists are amazing and they represent each country. So hopefully we'll have some questions from audience. So ladies, I would like to have you introduce yourself in a few words and let the audience know what your specialty is and what your missions and passions are. So let's go to Warm, Florida, and Alfie Eichen, the director of Microsoft Global Social Entrepreneur Program. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you again for having me. And I'm so excited to be a part of the Avenue Code journey. Again, my name is Alfie Eichen. I am the Director for Societal Impact for Microsoft. And what that means is really looking at how we partner differently with our customers and partner differently to carry out the mission of the organization, which is really about people and planet. And so I lead the Social Entrepreneurship Program. I also support our strategic partnerships with our top partners and customers around societal impact and how we partner together just as a way of doing business. And then I have a great team around the country that really helps to develop the community. So as a part of our AI and sustainability team at Microsoft, we really look at bringing the best of how we can plan a future together.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. And I know you have a special heart for Jamaica. Please mention that. What was your journey there and what your impact was?
Well, thank you. I'm always excited to talk about the country I was born in. I was born in Jamaica, left when I was about 7 or 8 and moved to New York. So I really grew up in New York, but I mean, I have a whole family of Jamaicans. And so I grew up in that culture. And about 12 years ago, while working for GE, I was able to minimize that role and transition to start Junior Achievement Jamaica there, which really focused on really empowering you to own their economic success. And through that, really introducing entrepreneurship in a different way to the country instead of it being needs-based, look at opportunity-based. And now it's a part of the educational curriculum nationally. So students in grade 9 have to create companies and work together, but just really learning the tenets of what does it take to be a business owner, to take risk. And so very excited to see that continue while I transitioned out of Jamaica into this Microsoft role last year.
Wow, amazing. Thank you for sharing. That's great. And let's fly to Germany now. Molly Baum, CEO and founder of W Lounge and co-creator of Molly Talk Show that I was happy to be part of. Please tell us more about yourself and your organization.
Thank you, Uli. And I'm super proud to be here with Alfie and also Hila. Where can I start? I mean, I'm originally also from Israel, from Tel Aviv. I live in Berlin for 7 years. So I would say I'm, yes, represented in the European mindset, European culture. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I built several companies. The last one, while I was still in Tel Aviv, was educational toys for kids. We had a production factories in China, while the main market was the US. And of course, we grew up in Asia and then also in the European market as well. So while I moved with my family to Berlin, to Germany, I would say it opened my mind. You know, in business, we call it blue ocean. Blue ocean is an opportunity. So combine Israeli, crazy woman, and opportunity will bring something probably that's supposed to be a game changer. And I'm very proud to say that W Launch it is. W Launch is a network. The idea is to build something that I wish I had when I started, when I was 20 something. And it's definitely highlighting the women in tech, the female investor, female founder, because we do not have enough. The idea is to empower the network while we're working with politicians, European Commission, venture capitals, corporates, family offices. And we all know that to build a successful company, successful startup, you need the right mentors, the right access to capital. The other head that I have is a fund that we are raising. It's called Magda Group, and Magda Group is focused on the ability of taking those startups that we believe in, the team, in the people, and connect them with the industry. So eventually to see much more unicorns coming out of Europe and Germany.
Wonderful, Molly. Thank you for introduction. I know you also, with that journey, you have so many connections globally in Asia and Europe, and you can help some of the local entrepreneurs to connect with investors there around the world, correct?
Yes, I'm super active in Africa as well, mainly Lagos, when it comes to investment, when it comes to impact investment. I know Microsoft is super active there. Actually, we did a big conference here in Microsoft headquarters in Berlin. And also, of course, also China, because working 8 years with China, and eventually, you know, let's be very honest, it's people, you know, it's people that we're still in contact and supporting each other. So bringing investors, also venture capitalists also from Asia, to invest here in Germany as well.
Wonderful, Molly. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we can definitely ask some questions about different investors globally. So please ask your questions in the chat. Now let's jump to Israel and Tel Aviv. And I know it's warm and nice there right now. Hila Ovel-Brenner, Managing Director of Techstars. Please tell us more about yourself and your other organization as well.
Thank you. First of all, I'm super excited to be here. I couldn't be more excited to be part of these global initiatives that bring women together. And I've been dealing with this for so many years. And I can tell you, I feel there's a change in the air. So I feel very lucky to be here. My name is Hila Ovel-Brenner. I am a managing director at Techstars Tel Aviv. Techstars is the worldwide network that helps entrepreneurs succeed. We have over 60 accelerators around the world, and we are actually the most active seed investor. So we invested to date in nearly 3,000 startups, and our portfolio is about $40 billion, and we work with really, really great partners. My other hat, aside from investing in small startups, is Yazamiot. It's a terrible word. It's very difficult to pronounce, but it actually means female founders in Hebrew, it was supposed to start as a small organization and ended up becoming a very global initiative with a few amazing international projects like Campus for Moms, a project that we did with Google where moms on maternity leave actually come and study how to start their startups. A few accelerators with Microsoft actually in AI and machine learning, a few corporations with Intel, etc. And so what we try to do around the world is actually bring women together to network and to help them fundraise and to bring more role models to the world. And aside from that, I'm excited to be here with amazing people like Molly and Alfie and yourself. And thanks.
Thank you so much, Hila. And you touching on a very special moment and point about female founders and entrepreneurs. We are creating and working together on something very special, all around global female Shark Tank, organized by women, supported by female entrepreneurs, female investors and advisors. And We want to create something very special and authentic way of helping and supporting female founders. So we're sharing more information. It will happen in San Francisco. And you're welcome to join us as a entrepreneur or a mentor, an advisor, and let's do it together. We're really excited. So I want to start with a warm-up question to any of our panelists. Think of amazing, truly amazing story about any entrepreneur or startup that was going through you or in your eyes that really blossomed and had an amazing success story. Who can share one?
I can start.
Oh yes, please, Alfie.
Yeah, so I'll share two small ones. One I'll start with just a student in Jamaica. This a gentleman, Nicholas Key, who really did an outstanding job and took potato and turned it into plastic. It was really interesting. They called it plastato. And it was really just the taking different people that may have had different expertise. So for example, they had science students, business students, marketing students, and coming together and just looking and researching and then developing that product in country. So that was really nice. And he has since moved on from there and done tremendous things. But just that idea and knowing that finally they realized how to use their hands to create something brand new. It was awesome. And then more recently, just in Microsoft, I've been working with a founder in Forward Edge and just looking at something really relevant. I mean, they took it to heart when scamming was occurring with phone calls for the elderly and decided they're going to do something about that. And so it's really just started to work in the space and found this, developed this detection process that is, it's translated into many languages so it can be used around the world. But really looking at it and driving deep to see how do we stop elderly, the underserved, and others from being scammed, persons that may have English as a second language and not sure what's happening when they're asking for things like your social security number or private information. And now because of that passion to try to help to solve someone, it's blooming into an amazing industry, and they're looking at partnering with some of Microsoft's partners, and we're trying to open the door for that. So that's a couple that I would share.
Those are awesome. Thank you. I love the plastato too.
It's
really amazing. Any other stories, ladies, before we move on?
Yeah, please jump in. You probably has a lot.
Hila, any?
So I have so many stories. I don't even know where to begin. But I think generally, lately, I've seen such inspirational stories by women who've raised money. And of course, one of them is an Israeli unicorn, Einat Getz from Papaya, an amazing entrepreneur who shared her story, who is part of Yazamiot and met in my, I think, first network event in my garden about 10 years ago. Landed up leading a unicorn. So she was the first woman to have led a unicorn. But I want to say something as to female investors as well. I think lately we're seeing more of these, which is really, really great because research has shown that investors invest in people that are very similar to them. And if you walk into a room where everybody is a man, like I walked into a room and I was pregnant, it was very difficult to have a conversation with men that, you know, I was so different to them. And even if they were really great and liberal people, it was very difficult for them, I think, to invest in me. And so the more investors, I'm seeing a lot of that, and they're super inspirational to me. Women who actually start, you know, raising money for their own funds and actually investing in people. So.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it.
I have to jump in to really only emphasize that, Hila, because what I see here in Europe, that there are less women actually going to fund their own funds, their own VCs, which means number-wise, you know, we all know that when there are more women with money, there are more female founders with money. So this is the circle. And this is what we are really, really working and fighting very hard to see here much more. Coming back to a story during, you know, COVID-19, as a network, you don't see anyone because you're not allowed, but you need to keep the communication and the opening and the introduction and the interaction within the community. So actually it was the opposite. Suddenly being in the morning in Silicon Valley conference, and in the evening in Tel Aviv, and in the noon, you know, having like online lunch with European or Berlin, that was amazing. So it brought it a different perspective that we actually don't need to have physically in a place to support. So we supported more women, and we even brought up a new format, which is called Their Leadership. We built like SDG for Impact, WDL for Leadership. So it's an icon, it's a language that we see that it's missing, it's lack of, when definitely we're talking about female founder, and nevertheless they're female investor, because we need to put them more out there, you know, in the forefront, and to highlight them as a role model, as a risk takers. So this program, back to your question, brought super young ladies, just finished, you know, Technische University in Munich or Berlin, computer science, that searching for building their own startup, or very, very high level, I would say, serial entrepreneur women that raised 2.5 to 3 million euro already. And the magic was go through the program 6 weeks online, but the communication between themselves, how much they start to exchange, you know, businesses starting to work with each other, which means it's business relationship, they pay to each other, and one of them actually opened the door for her own investor with the others. And I think that was the real magic in the first cohort, to see how they really start to communicate between themselves. So we just need to bring the right people to the right place, and I think that's the magic. And the younger generation is smarter, is faster, so it's happening faster.
I can't agree more. That's amazing. Thank you. I wanted to ask about, since we started talking about risk taking and just going into the entrepreneurship and starting out, I have a question on what are the pitfalls, or what are the things to look out for when you are trying to really jump into it and maybe leave something that you had stability, or trying to go into this new venture where there's a lot of risks and unknown. So who can take that question?
Okay, I want to take that question because I think that's not the right question. It's a beautiful question, but it's not the right question. The right question isn't what to look for. The right question, is it in you? Do you really want to do it? And I feel entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Not everyone has to do it. But if you feel very strongly about it, I feel like you don't have to look at the pitfalls at all, because if you start looking at the pitfalls, I mean, there are so many of them. If I knew half of the struggle, maybe I wouldn't go in with the same passion. I think the thing you have to look for is, are you passionate about it? Do you really want to do it? You know, how are you putting together a team to do it? Do you wake up every morning to feel like you're changing the world? Because if you're not doing that, you probably can't do it, because it's just too hard. So I think the idea is not to look for pitfall, but rather to look for the actual steps to go ahead and kind of make your dream come true. So I would do that rather than look for the pitfalls.
That's awesome. Alfie, I know you had also a gentle way to kind of ease into it. Maybe you can share that story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do appreciate the question, even how it's worded, because that's how oftentimes most people look at it, like obstacles and pitfalls and transition and what is next for me, because this is not working. And so I think it's really, even to Hila, to your point, it's not waiting to really put the pieces of this puzzle together when there's imminent struggle around you, right? It just makes you more uncomfortable about what next can be. And if you start early to put your ideas together, to formulate it, to create your, what I would call your virtual board of directors, right? So you may not know who's in the space, but you have a passion or interest for it. Who virtually could I watch on LinkedIn or follow or attend there? Molly, I heard about your show, watch the show, or Avenue Code. You have seminars, attend the seminars to start to learn more about the space, learn more about expertise in a particular area, and then start to build that way and start to build your company and your ideas and look at where you feel you may have been spread too thin. Maybe I need to focus or spread too wide, right? Maybe I need to focus in a particular area first and build from there. And if you start to do that while you are living your current life, then when it's time for you to transition, you'll realize that you're more prepared than you would have thought, because you've already been looking at the pros and the cons and working through what people will say won't work and really listening to that, then finding the solution around that. And then the people that are saying this will work, listening to that too, and ensuring that you have some proof points. It's not just you drinking your own Kool-Aid, like we say often, but it's something that you've vetted out because you're taking your time through that journey and being open to opportunities when they present themselves. Like, for example, Uliana, you talked about the Shark Tank coming up. For me, that'd be something that I'd already be registered for, ready to go, have an idea. Let me see if I could pitch it. You have some great speakers coming. I know from Microsoft, our own corporate VP, Gretchen O'Hara, will be there speaking. You have some great people. I would be in the audience taking notes and really looking at how do I connect so that I can feel better and more confident about the stance of going to a next because of all the learning that I've been able to acquire.
Wonderful. No, thank you so much. This is amazing to kind of start thinking about, okay, am I ready or not? And we have a question from the audience. Maybe Molly, you can answer. When is the best time to start?
I mean, immediately, you know, this is kind of like what I wanted to jump in and to say also what Alfie mentioned. It's so true. And also Hila mentioned that if you do not have it like burning in your every, you know, blood cell in your body, just don't do it. Okay, like you ask me why you're doing this, how you started, when you started, like there's no answers. I just started, you know, I saw opportunity, I was there, I felt that I'm bringing something bigger and better, I can do it, I bring the right people around me, all taking time and strategy, but just do it, you know. So building several companies, it's for a reason, you know. Each one of the company has its own journey and its own reason, why this is the team, why this is the product, why this is the market. So if you do not have all of this and you believe that you can do significant impactful things, just don't do it or wait for the right moment. Probably it won't come because it's also part of the personality, you know. The best founders are the doers, the dreamers, the visionaries. So it's probably very aligned for your lifestyle, priorities, things that are important for you. So it all comes as a package.
Yeah, and if I could just touch on, I love sayings and axioms, right? So Hila, you were talking about unicorns before, and there's a saying that says, most overnight successes were 10 years in the making.
Yes.
Yes. So it takes time, and that's the doing that we're talking about. Take the time to get it done, because when you are on the front page, when you're being interviewed by Molly on her show or asked to come and speak,
too late.
It's 10 years in the making. What you're not seeing what's below the surface. We talk about the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing the foundation that has been built below that. So start now, like we're saying, and build and build, and then you'll feel that gut that Hila, what you were saying of, is it in you, or is this a great idea? You may want to partner with someone else or give it to someone else, because if it's not in you, then don't do it. But if you feel like, okay, I want to, know that you have the foundation of the work you've been preparing for to help to launch you forward.
And then I want to also give another tip, which I think is important regarding this, is when I started off, there weren't so many programs and tools to help you. So I needed to find my way around and look for information. I literally looked for people on LinkedIn and reach out to them. Today, when I'm part of such a global network like Techstars, and of course, I'm hoping that all of you will find your way to apply to my program and other programs around the world, and the application is opening next week, just saying. But I'm hoping that all of you find programs, not only Techstars, but other programs and mentorships around the world that are more feasible than they used to be. and find yourself a mentor that can walk with you, like an inspiration, or someone that can open doors for you and help you fundraise and help you, create the right way to do things, because it is easier today than it was before.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Someone said, where can I find the applications? On the Techstars website, and it's opening on Monday.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question from the audience about finding pre-seed funding angel investors. Can anybody take that? How do you find it? And
So it may vary. I'll touch on it, and then I'll let the experts really take it apart, because I'm sure they have great ideas. I'm going to go back to Hila, what you were saying just now, right? The landscape for mentoring and support is much better than we had before. And through those opportunities and those programs, most times funding is available. So really look, I see in the chat, Joanna, so just wanted to say a quick hi to her from Jen. And so Jen is like the Global Entrepreneurship Network. That's another avenue. They have competitions. It's free to join. Why not get involved? Because you'll see funding availability there. I know in the US, there's been so much funding now. Through the pandemic, it has continued to be there, which we thought maybe it'd be a pullback, but it's just been a restructure. There's a global impact investing network that says that $500 billion is being invested in the social impact space, 60% of that in the US. Like, that's huge. The sustainable development goals, I was doing some research on that because we use that often in Microsoft to create those partnerships with our strategic customers and our entrepreneurs. $250 billion was invested in SDG related programs. That's huge. And then more recently, President Biden for the US, he has a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. And when you peel back the onion, about 660 billion of that is in the societal impact investing space. So funding is there. And there's a website, sam.gov. That's the US government website, sam.gov. Where all their procurement and opportunities are. Search the website, see if something aligns that the government is looking for that you can create, invest the time in understanding their procurement process, because that's direct products. And then there are tons of other places as well where you can, once you participate in those spaces, then you'll see where additional grant opportunities. That's where you'll see the VCs, because that's where they hang out. That's where you'll see angel investors, because that's where they hang out too, because they're looking for those same opportunities.
That's great. That's wonderful. Somebody from audience asking if they can join from Latin America. They're launching her startup. I think the question was from Paula. For you and for Alfie, can they join those global opportunities?
Yes. So I mentioned some other global ones, like the Global Entrepreneurship Network. That is global. Anyone can join. They have conferences all over the world. For Microsoft, the program that I lead in the US is a global program. And so it's on our website. If you do Global Social Entrepreneurship Program, you can see that. But we have different Alfies around the world. I'm happy to say that one of the strong global partners I have is also a female with that societal impact lens as well. And so we are already, to the points mentioned earlier, in these positions, especially from a corporate standpoint, to ensure that we're focusing on not just getting great talent, but also ensuring the diversity is there in our talent. Because oftentimes we just look at where's comfortable to look, but we're taking a different approach, and we're not reducing our standards. We're just looking in different places like this audience and other places where we can find top women talent. And then we have females mentoring females. We're also sharing that type of conversation with our male counterparts, who sometimes are plentiful, but they need to have the same type of lens as we do. So we're trying to encourage from all aspects to ensure that we're promoting all of our entrepreneurs, especially our women.
Oh, got it. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions coming in. I love it. From Stephanie, what is a good growth rate for a startup? Is there any method to help me quantify that?
A positive number. It's a good growth rate. Any positive number. It varies. It really varies by business. I mean, I don't know. continue to talk about my organization, but hey, I work there, so why not? Yesterday they announced earnings, and I mean, even the stock price is up 30 something percent, earnings up a ridiculous amount. Like, they're doing well. So it varies. It really depends on the industry, and a positive number is what you're looking for. And know your industry so that you can say, in this space, this is the rate that I'm seeing. How am I going to do as a startup? I often recommend that we mimic private sector. They've done so many things so well. So why try to reinvent the structures within your startup? I'm reading a book now by my former CEO from GE called Hot Seat. And he's talking about the fact that he read 50 to 60 annual reports a year. Find those startups in the space that you want to work in. Find those companies that are your future customers, and ensure you're reading their annual reports as well. What are they struggling with? And does that help you to refine your idea for your product, or even know who to connect with so that you can get additional partnerships as you're looking to grow? So I don't know the percentage, but as long as, aim for positive, look at your industry, and then see how you want to set against your industry.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you. A question from a YouTube channel. What are the most important tips that you believe that can be used in any country? For example, Brazil has some particularities that European and North American countries don't have. I think the unions and restrictions. Any kind of global tips for the LATAM audience?
This is something that I noticed definitely in Europe. The public sector is much more relevant for the growth of the startup. I mean, there is just too much money. Let's put it on the table as a fact. And this is the first time I saw, more than in New York, Silicon Valley, or in Tel Aviv, that the public sector is significant, because you can quite easily, back to the question also on the business angel, get funded for the pre-seed, MVP, even sometime on idea level. Grants, non-equity. So you don't need to chase this business angel clubs or people, because as an angel, you usually invest in people you already know. I mean, this is how it works. You believe in the people because it's really too early, very risky to step in. So if you believe that this is the team, this is the people that can execute, you step in. And this is also a culture. I mean, I would love to highlight the culture differentiation here. Europe is not America. Europe is not Israel. Israel is not America. Although we feel very comfortable as an Israeli to work in America, it's different. You need to adapt. You need to adapt to the local culture in every city. And even if you think that Israel is super small, it's also very difficult to step in. You need to learn, the business language, or the body language that you need to adapt there. So my answer is network. Like, you have to find, I would call it even like a club that fits you well, fits your goals, your values, that you feel belongs. And again, as all of you mentioned, thank God today it's easier. It's just more out there, more existing, open, more than before. And I think that's the answer. Accelerators, absolutely, it's functioning as a networks on their own. And all of them is a funnel for opportunities and for the right people to access your company. Either they are LPs, like an investor, or even like team members, or customers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Molly. Question about how to raise pre-revenue startup money with only a prototype. And I think I would like to add to it, how do you stand out in front of investors? What are the tips? How do you prepare for the pitch? You only have one chance for that particular one. Is there any specific areas and things to focus on for that?
So I want to leave you with really, really an important message as an investor in startups, but also as someone who stood and raised money. I raised over $40 million, and I know how it is really scary to stand in front of investors in the beginning, and how not confident you feel, and especially women who have always this imposter syndrome, who always feel like they could do better, who always feel like they could be more prepared. I want to leave you with something. I want you to understand that investors need you just as much as you need them. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from me, is that investors look for great startups just like you are looking for money. It's a match. It's a game. And when they meet you, they think, are you the appropriate founder that's going to make money for them? And if you're a great founder with a great product and a great market, they want you even more than you want them. So when you walk into a room and you're scared and you don't know if you're doing the right thing, just remember that, because there are so many investors out there and they're all looking to make money. It's their profession. Your profession is to raise money, and it's their profession to give you money. And some of the money is not even their money. They're managing other people's money. So when you walk in, just think, I'm confident. I know I'm prepared. I'm confident. I'm the right founder for this. And if you want to stand out, you want to shine that. You want to show that to the investor. And like everything else in life, if you shine that confidence to the investor knows this is the right team with the right product, they will invest in you. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I really love that, because I think my advice would be very similar. Investors are investing in you and your product, and don't forget the and. So who are you and how do you show up? And, oftentimes you're going into the meeting, you're researching the investor you're going to present to. They're researching you. How do you show up in terms of being connected into the space? What does your profile online look like? Who do I know that knows you? And if you start to, again, play in the space that you're creating your product for, or your processes for, then your name will start to generate its own buzz, so that when you present yourself in this meeting, half of their decision is going to be, do I trust that this individual, like Hila said, can take it to that next level? So make sure that you are visible, you are well networked. Also, I want to go back to Molly. You mentioned a book earlier that I love, Blue Ocean.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
The
the
global
Blue Ocean
strategy.
strategy, highly recommended. So if you have a product, have you really looked at the product and the space you're going into? Have you looked at adjacent markets that this could be used? Have you really looked at how you can maximize earnings for you and that investor? Because if you go in with that mindset, as opposed to, here is my version 20 of my product, if you go in with the mindset of, this is a product and this is how it could be used across all these other markets, where, by the way, there's no competition right now, then again, those are things that would help the investor increase their confidence in you. So know your market, know your investor, like research them, check out what they're doing, check out how they communicate, be present, linked, all those other things, connect with them in different mediums, attend their conferences. That's also, think about your virtual investor before you actually go meet with them. How do you troll them? Like, how do you follow them? How do you become visible to them, so that when you're meeting, you're truly not meeting for the first time? And you go and you present yourself and you focus on the problem you're trying to solve, instead of boiling the entire ocean, then your likelihood for success increases.
That's
Actually,
beautiful.
this is beautiful. I would like to add on this, because actually this book was my Bible, to be very honest, at the beginning. It changed my mindset. Like, I don't have any competition, even if I have, okay? But this is me. So focus on yourself. In the their leadership program in W Lounge, we have the icons. So one of them is a voice. You have to build your own voice in the industry, because as an investor, we will invest in the sexy founders. And this is related to what Hila mentioned. We also need to bring back this money, 10x. So the responsibility and the risk is also on us as an investor. So as a founder, if you know exactly who you are pitching, your pitch has to be adapted, okay? Don't pitch the same because you're not a robot. And on the same time, put a lot of focus on who you are and who is the team, because that will be the only way to make yourself different. How you shine This is the only way to shine. Why you and not the other team that doing this in Silicon Valley, then other one that building the same product right now in Tel Aviv? That's the difference. The team, execution, capability, background. Raise your own team, be on stage, use the network, join the right conferences. This is how you raise your voice in the industry, and you become, a very sexy for investment, but also an expert.
That's beautiful. I also wanted to mention maybe visualize your product and take them on a journey and explain to them the impact. Sometimes when we are so excited about the product, we have an MVP, but we want to really visualize it before we go there and see the impact. Visualize, this is my impact of my product, and taking the investor through that journey and kind of getting them on the ride with you. So just copying that, what Molly said is like that, who the investor is, understanding what they believe in, and connecting the dots together. I think that will make the journey successful. There's a couple more questions actually trickling in. Some of them have been addressed. How to overcome your challenges. What were the time where we were on the verge of giving up? How did you come out of that?
Okay, so I was on the verge of giving up like a zillion times. I didn't know where to start on that. But I try to think of one moment that I can share with you, because being in a startup is a roller coaster. And I want to tell you a story about the investor, which was actually a female investor that I was really looking forward to meeting. And I really prepared for this. I went to the presentation. About 10 minutes after I began the presentation, she said, "You look like a really nice person. Go do something else with your life. This is not going to work." And I just, at the time we're developing a grammar check, which was the first natural language processing tool, which landed up being on 50 million computers and raised a lot of money and made a lot of money for investors. And we signed a big agreement later with Pearson Education, with Google. But when she said this, I was right in the beginning. And I remember that I was absolutely devastated, and took me like really literally 3 days to overcome that meeting, because it wasn't constructive criticism. It was just plain, criticism. And it was actually destructive, I must say. And the reason I tell this story, because years down the line, I met the same investor somewhere, and I remember this because I have this little scar on me, because I was holding a very hot cup of coffee, and she said, "Wow, I'm so happy to see you succeed. I was so sure that you're going to succeed." And I remember that because I actually poured the cup of coffee on myself, because I couldn't believe that she said that. And I said, "You don't remember what you said to me like a few years back?" And she said, "Yes, I remember. But I knew that it was something about you that's going to make you succeed." Later down the line, she also became my investor, and she was also on my board. I never really liked her as an investor, to say the truth, but I think generally she was a very smart woman, but I think she did it in a very destructive way. And the reason I tell you this is that, one, I want you to know that investors have very short memories. So when companies do well, they go back on their word and they invest in you. It's not a personal thing. And so many, many times I was on the verge of giving up because of conversations like this. And I want you, everyone who's listening to this, to go back and say, if you believe in yourself, I'm not saying you don't have to listen. You have to listen, and you have to listen to criticism and decide what to do with it. But you need to be also very confident and know that what you're doing is the right thing.
Beautiful. So every fall is an opportunity, right? Translating to your, that's amazing. There is one question about media coverage. I don't know if you have answer. What is the best way to get the media coverage?
Results.
Yes.
I learned the hard way. I had a company, we paid a lot to media, Vogue, blah, 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 blah. With my companies, I don't care about this. Like, I think it's even the wrong way, but I don't care about this. And I promised, and I following my promises, I will let the success talk. And when media are asking for interview, for whatever coverage, it's because it's already there. It's not talking about what it's going to be and how much amazing things we're going to do. It's because it's out there, you know. So you want to talk about success, you want to talk about how we achieve that, where we're going with this, and so on. Happy to contribute, happy to talk about this. But I'm okay, it's the opposite. Like, don't be a founder that's selling big vision, big things, and eventually after 3 years I will meet you and you're on the right place, because this is exactly the things that's killing great companies. You know, they are talking too early, too much, and I think they're losing the trust very early. So let the success speak, which means be a very good executor, and the media will come because they need you.
So for me, I'm a engineer by nature. I put my head down, I execute, and I don't do the media, I don't do the marketing. And I think in hindsight, I should do more. And so I would recommend that you have to actively engage in media. There's so much noise around, and there's so much media around too. I mean, people are creating their own channels. I mean, we see that. My son recently in Florida went to a YouTube versus TikTok boxing match because they have their own, they're celebrities now. And so there are different, more creative, less costly ways for you to gain popularity, gain attention, gain voices, gain supporters, and be visible. That I would recommend that has to be a part of your focus, because there's so much to sift through. You want to be discoverable, even if it's saying, okay, I'm going to put out and commit to it, whether it's a monthly, a weekly, a daily activity in the media. I think it really needs to be managed. Even if you just take your profile online and say, okay, I'm going to blog, or every time I go to an activity, I'm going to share one win for the week. I'm going to share my journey. Those things are helpful because I think visibility is needed, because there's so much other noise that can really suppress the great stories that you have to share. And so I saw that in Junior Achievement. We're trying to even do that more now. As an organization, and even for the programs that I manage, how do we ensure that we maintain a certain level of visibility? How do we earn trust? And it's by talking about it and getting those partnerships and owning your truth about how you lead as an organization, and get your connection set. I'm not saying you're going to always be the most clicked on, etc., but I think you need to have your own presence and you need to work at that.
Beautiful.
This is a good point, because let's make a difference between media than running your own social media channels. You know, how you communicate with your audience, with the people that you want to attract, or the people that you want them to listen to you or to invest in you. It doesn't matter the reason. This is a strategy. Or like media as what we call like the
traditional
media. Exactly. Thanks.
Beautiful, Molly. We have a question about continuation. It's like, once a business is launched, how can you continue to actively shape up the vision? Are there particular review processes or exercises to ensure you're aligning circumstances with your North Star? Anybody?
Well, I feel like there's no real recipe for that, because there's so many different ways that a startup or a business can be continue, and there's so many ways to maintain it. But I want to say something from all the startups I'm seeing at Textras and the huge deal flow that we have globally, is that ultimately the founders are the ones who are actually making the ambiance. So if there's anything I would like to keep as far as North Star is the founders and how they got up every morning and what they dreamt this company would be. So when I was running a company of 5 people, rather than later when I was running it with 100 people, I try to keep the same North Star of policy and ambiance and just the environment, the work environment and the policy around it. So, but I think there's no recipe for this. And I made tons of mistakes, and startups make tons of mistakes when it comes to this as well. The biggest mistake is also to continue changing a lot of people, because you want to build a very stable team. And in that respect, I would urge you all to meet the right teams right in the beginning. If you don't meet the right teams, you can change them, but don't think that people are replaceable. They're your biggest assets.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hila. I have a question. Yes, Alfie.
Yeah, just wanted to piggyback, Hila, on what you were saying, because there's a core competency, your North Star, that you want to keep and you want to hold on to. I've seen companies give that away, outsource it, and they become a mirror image of themselves, a fraction of what themselves. And then there are other things that you want to be right to continue to change and grow. Because as you shared, the company that you ran with 5 versus 100 will probably run differently, but there's a core competency that you can see is very consistent in it. So you want to know what you're keeping in your company as your company grows, and what you're giving, what you can give away to ensure that you're focused on the key portions, which is the growth. And just continue to be connected, like continue to learn the same methods, the same thing that got you to Series A to get to the Series B to get to this to C. How do you continue that daily grind of running your company? I think is important. How do you stay connected? How do you look and see what's happening in the space? And again, those adjacent spaces, those things aren't going to change. And if you keep that tenacity, I think it will help you to continue to innovate, to create, and to look for partnerships with the public sector, private sector, etc.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to talk about current market, and just maybe you can share from your perspectives, your countries, what are the current focused areas where you can get more grants or get funded? Maybe it's sustainability, social impact. What are the things and focused areas for each country? Maybe that would be a good topic to discuss. Hila, from your side, in Israel, any interesting areas?
I think Israel has become startup nation. That's why I urge you all to look at Israel. You know, for a really long time, we've had like a wave of IPOs now in the Nasdaq. Actually, we've had more IPOs, I think, than the whole of Europe in the last 6 months. So I think there's a lot of deep tech and cyber here, and really unique technology, but also a big wave of innovation. So I think it's a place where everybody comes to learn about innovation and how to start. And I'm seeing a lot of people from even, Asia and Europe and even the US coming here to scout for companies to buy. I think it's a really vibrant ecosystem, and I think it's very investable. We are sometimes less good at building big things. Sometimes we sell too quickly, they say, but Techstars has a really strong presence here in Israel, and we hoping to bring a lot of companies from here to the rest of the world.
Awesome. Thank you. Molly, what about Germany?
Yeah, I want to highlight Israel because there is an army, and everyone is a soldier, and everyone took something out of it. And the army is a huge driver for cybersecurity, healthcare, food tech, things that you see those phenomenal younger generation living and actually building their own company. So the army is a big driver for what we see in Israel. Europe has a massive role right now that you can definitely see in the commissioner, in the European Commission, that it's of course going to all the rest of the countries, which is sustainability. We always said, we know what Israel is very good at. We know what America is super well, strong at, and definitely Asian. But what about Europe? Europe by the definition is more diverse, which means it's complicated, but also as a fact is more diverse. And the focus is big time going, and you see the capital flowing there and the focus going to sustainability. Every big corporates, from the biggest name to the smallest startups, they are building companies with product, and on the same time they presented it as why it's sustainable and what impact it's bringing. So the ESG is very, very strong right now. And on the European level, as an umbrella, we definitely say very clear that if Europe can and should lead on something, is to drive this, because we all know that it's more social, less capital, more human focus, and this is something that we already see that it's going to be a leader for impact and sustainability, green tech. You know the Green Deal probably already, and a lot of venture capitals also starting to be focused on this.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Any perspective, Alfie, from United States and the grants and the government support?
Yeah, sure. So I shared some of the numbers earlier. I do feel that from a tech standpoint, definitely more in the AI space and the machine learning as we really continue this assault on data. How do we use data to inform? How do we use data to protect? And I think to what Molly was saying, sustainability is a big focus for us in the US. What I love to see is, as for example, for me, I'm responsible for some of our partnerships with our top customers around sustainability or just around social impact. And as I looked at the top few hundred, and what are they focused on? They're making commitments that are not mandated by the government around sustainability. They're also looking at being sustainable, like with our SDGs, right? About half of the 17 are sustainability focused, but there's another half that's not. They're looking at reducing poverty. They're looking at healthcare. They're looking at quality education, looking at decent work. They're looking at gender. But they're doing it from a tech standpoint, I find, so that they can accelerate these growth areas and how we partner together to do what's right. So while the government too is looking at some, can't say mandates, but they're encouraging more sustainability efforts, companies are already doubling down on it and making commitments to be carbon neutral, to carbon positive, like just, or carbon negative rather, just other things to grow in that space. So it's really vast. And as I shared before, even with the SDGs across all of those, I see heavy investment across all the SDGs, which means that you really have great opportunity. It's just really focusing on where you want to go and where those opportunities are and ensuring that you're partnering along the way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Ladies, I know we're at the end of the hour. It was such a fantastic hour to see all of you interacting, and thank you, the audience, for all the questions. It was super helpful. I even want to start my own startup now, so I feel equipped. And with all of you ladies, I'm excited to invite everybody to the Shark Tank experience, and we will post a discount link later. But thank you again, and I look forward to see you all and join. If Hila or Molly and Alfie, you want to send any programs our way, we will share the links, and anything that could help the audience, we will be happy to share.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here, and especially with you. What a great interviewer that was. And Alfie and Molly, you're inspirational and amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You are too. I'm excited to connect with you after the show as well, because now I have 3 new friends and I'm sure we'll have more. And so we'll stay connected because there's a lot of work that we're doing globally. I want to make sure we continue to support each other through these journeys.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. And just dream big.
Yeah.
Dream big and don't be scared, just execute. And Uli, thank you so much for bringing us together.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.